I will call the policy committee meeting for January 13th to order. And Jory, if you could do roll call, please.
Hamaji.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
He's excused. Topper.
Yeah, here.
Okay, are there any changes to the minutes from December 9th?
No.
Seeing none, we'll say they're approved. Are there any residence forum speakers?
No, we do not.
Okay, and
What committee is this?
Chair's report, I just wanted to welcome Maxine back to
Thank
the
you.
committee and thank Ted for stepping in while you were gone. So that worked out great. And there is no unfinished business, so we'll move on to item 7A, clarification of housekeeping policies for the residence forum procedure. So do you want to give a little overview?
Yeah, so this is one where we have our housekeeping policies and procedures in relation to the residence forum. There's two items. One is that came up for discussion that you all asked us a little bit more clarification on. Every now and then we'll get a speaker that says they are representing their neighbor or friend or somebody else, another resident. They proceed to give their information and then may also give their own. So technically they're speaking for up to 4 minutes. Clarification on this is residents that wish to speak on behalf of another must submit written consent from the individual they represent at the time they submit their form slip to the speaker or to the assistant secretary. So basically it just clarifies for the board or for the committee that yes, indeed, I want this person to speak on my behalf because I can't be there for any reason. It just gives a little measure of security that really this person is speaking on somebody else's behalf.
I have a question about that. How would it be handled if someone had 15 residents that couldn't be here that day and began to speak on behalf of 15 people? I can't see it happening, but it just crossed my mind. I mean, sorry to be back and causing trouble first time.
Yeah, I mean, technically it could happen. I think the chair of the committee or the president of the board could state, are you reiterating what was said previously and just saying it 15 times? And it could be something that's just simply submitted, or you can allow, it's really at the discretion of the chair.
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
We've never had that issue.
Yeah, okay, another for instance along those lines, like it could be a speaker could do the written authorization much like a petition. So I think maybe we need to set a limit.
As to how many.
Maybe how many, like just one other comment maybe? I mean, it makes sense, like if someone's ill or
Yeah,
Or they
sometimes
have a
they're out of
conflict or
town.
something like
they
that,
don't have
yeah.
an electronic means
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get us.
But
the
you're right,
information.
you don't want someone going around and circulating to 5 people.
Gathering opinions. So a limit.
Yeah.
Was that your point, that you sought a limit?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a solution necessarily, it just kind of crossed my mind
It's a good question.
that we should allow people to represent one other person possibly,
I think
or
one.
have some maybe we'll call it a clarification rather than a revision or a limiting or something, because that just could get too wieldy, and I don't think it's helpful to anyone, including the residents, and could just like to eliminate future problems.
Okay. Did you want to go over this section?
So we could say for one, a speaker can speak for one other resident.
One other, make it one other. Okay.
The other has to do with email submissions. This puts us a little bit more in line with what the city does for city council meetings, where you can submit a document to be read by the assistant secretary. It gives some guidelines that it has to be received by 2 p.m. the day preceding the committee or board meeting, so we have time to prepare. If it is sent after that, it's not read aloud, but is still provided to all of the board members.
Yeah.
So it just clarifies procedure that it has to be received by 2 p.m.
Is it subject to the same time limitations as, okay, so
Yeah, I
all the
think
other,
so.
the same time limitations, in other words, it's 2 minutes,
Yeah, we're not gonna read it
yeah,
all.
we're not-
Yeah.
right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's
Yeah,
sufficient.
I think that's fine.
Okay, so at this point, can we ask that those revisions be made and come back next month?
Sure.
Okay. All right, any other questions on 7A? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to 7B. And this is the revisions to policy procedure P103 for elections, which was made by our attorney and some other changes. So Jeff, do you want to give us an overview?
So with new legislation, now it is possible for electronic balloting for our elections. This pertains both to mutuals as well as to the GRF board. We have several options within this. The main change is that you can either decide to make electronic balloting your default option, so that the expectation is everybody will vote electronically. It gives the option then for all members to opt out of that option. So you will be expected to electronically vote unless you opt out and request to receive a paper ballot. If we do not have a email address online or on file for a member, then they would automatically receive a ballot. So you have to make sure and do that. The other option is to have paper balloting as your default, and then people would have to opt into electronic voting. Really, there's pros and cons to both. Doing the electronic balloting as the default certainly gives us, we're building that email list, but it also gives, it's less costly to mail that many ballots on an ongoing basis. And I think we're kind of progressing in that direction. It just may take a little bit of time. The rest of the changes within the document really are just clarification type stuff, but if you want to go over anything in particular throughout the document,
It looked,
Go ahead.
it looked like when I was reading through it, that almost all the changes were just relating to adding the possibility of future email communication. Do you know how our sister communities have moved into that area, if they have?
so this is just pretty much new legislation over the last year that permits electronic balloting. So
Wait, when you say legislation, where is that legislation live?
So previously, so within the statute.
Is that like all elections in the state? Is it
And this is to
communities?
do with common interest development.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
So basically, with this, other sister communities and so forth are taking this step. Was that you that answered, asked that question? Or
Well, me, of course.
you are progressing in this direction.
Okay,
just it is more efficient, more costly, cost
less,
efficient.
yeah, okay.
All right, so did anybody have any outstanding comments for any of the changes in the document at this point? Okay, I did,
Okay.
unfortunately. Okay, going to page 7B8,
Okay, and are you on
Is this 71
red
too?
line? What are you on?
red line.
All right.
I'm looking at number 4 under scheduling of election.
8, number 4, okay, got it.
So I just wondered, Jeff, you probably don't know the answer to this, but maybe you do. The agencies we normally use to handle the paper ballots, can they also handle the electronic ballots?
Yes,
Okay, so that's a given, okay. And then, well, I had a lot of questions throughout about the e-ballot. For instance, talked about the assistant secretary having some interaction with that, getting information from the e-ballot collection. How are the e-ballots collected? Like how are they distributed? Is it like an Evite? You know, a separate system? And how do we prevent them from going in spam or Gmail promotions?
Mhm.
What are the ins and outs of that?
so that's probably a little bit better discussion with Deborah in her discussions with the company that would be overseeing this and distributing those and how they get them back.
All right, so I'll note that for next time.
Yeah, I would assume that for notification, we would be announcing that over the next day or two, you'll be receiving your ballot. Please look if you don't receive it, that kind of.
You'll look
noticing.
for it.
Yeah.
Okay. I would assume so too. A lot of this, I don't know if you wanna, it's too detailed. But I might write you a couple of points for the content changing for consistency. But one of the things I thought we should add is under nominations in
What
the
page
red
are you-
line,
What page are you at?
7B10. Everybody there? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, under the first paragraph, I think there should be some sort of intro or just a line that says paper and email nominations are accepted. Because you talk about paper extensively for 2 paragraphs, and then later down, they add email nominations. So I think overall, they should list paper and email nominations as accepted.
That makes a lot of sense because. I
Just so
think-
it guides the reader that.
Yeah, that it could be,
Yeah, and I think a lot of nominations are being received now, just through an email.
I think the overall thing that we can discuss here without going through any details are, like in the president's forum, they talked about would it be best to
opt
into
in.
e-voting or opt out of e-voting. So I can't remember what the president's forum decided.
I
It should probably be consistent.
I think it's by individual and mutual.
I think
has
each one.
that option to decide.
Oh, wow.
So mutual 1 can decide different than mutual 70, what they wanna do.
Okay.
They're independent.
So we're hitting up everybody, basically, in a, in a district, it's per district. But it could
Oh.
affect everybody in Rossmore.
All right, so that's a question though, we're not deciding per district, right? We're deciding
This would be
general GRF, okay, okay.
So all of the districts, how, that would be something to bring up with the president's forum, because that could be really confusing to residents, because I'm not sure they're always clear about what's mutual, what's GRF, and if the rules keep changing, that's,
Oh my gosh, that's a good point.
that's
I could
crazy.
check with Udron and see where the majority are headed, if they're mostly going electronic or mostly going paper as default.
But it wasn't the electronic or paper, it was more the opt-in, opt-out, or is that? or we-
Yeah, so
Well, but
one or the other
that's-
is your default.
Yeah, that you pick your default,
You pick your default and then you have to
yeah,
still be.
and then you
saying
opt in or
that.
opt out on that default is my
People would
understanding.
have to understand probably that opting in for GRF election is not the same as opting, yeah, it's confusing if it's different.
I don't think we can avoid it
I
though,
don't know.
because
Yeah, I guess you're right.
out of all the mutuals, I don't know that they'll all be
Oof.
consistent.
And maybe it's just gonna be okay.
I think it probably will be. I
Yeah.
think it's one of those things that initially you might have some hiccups and then it pretty much,
What's the percentage of people that actually vote?
oh, that's a very good question.
It depends on, it varies by district. You have to have a majority. I think most of our residents are pretty savvy, but the first couple years, I almost feel like it has to be kept as a paper ballot with the opt-in for e-ballot,
Mhm.
because it's just gonna take a while for people to get used to the fact that they can vote by e-ballot. I would love to say, let's just do e-ballot. and then
I would too.
opt the other way, but I don't
I
know.
also like giving people a personal choice. They have to say, I opt in.
Well,
We have to have a big
either-
campaign about opting in. We would just have to work on that.
I mean, either way, they have a choice.
Yeah.
It's just what's the base and then what are they choosing? You know what I mean? It's like, my base is paper, so I'm choosing not to have paper, I want email. Or my base is email, I'm choosing not to have email, I want paper.
I vote.
Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
mean,
but I
it's,
still think I vote for, we're not voting, but I still think I would like people to make a choice to opt in, rather than having it being done.
Opt-in to e,
to the
Yeah,
email,
opt-in to
so
email.
you're saying the default should be paper.
Yeah, I think so.
it kind of,
It would be interesting to, I mean, we need to hear what Deborah
Yeah.
has discussed with the people.
to me, it kind of parallels the Rossmore News, okay, so most people now don't want paper.
Right,
Even though they know the option for, they can type in rossmorenews.com and get it electronically easily, or get a feed for it, but, or an app. But they're opting for paper. So,
yeah, so,
and you don't want, in these times where people are disputing elections left and right, you don't want to disrupt the system so much that people feel like they haven't voted or they missed an opportunity to vote.
Or
And
that
by
we're-
e-voting, you open up a lot of possibilities for that.
I have a question, I suppose this is for Deborah, that if you get a paper ballot, or for whatever reason would like to respond by email.
No, you have to make your selection 90 days prior to
Okay,
the election.
Okay,
and
then
once
that's not an issue.
Whatever is on the books for that time is how you have to do it.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
And I'm sure prior to, we can double check, but prior to the next election, you could
You can
change
switch.
your
Yeah,
wish.
Oh, you
because
can't.
they're just
oh, okay.
90 days.
That would make sense.
I think word will spread, oh, it was so easy, I did it, you know, I didn't have to look at any paperwork or anything. So I think it'll be positive in the end.
Well, it'd be nice
It
to,
all works out in the
Anytime
end,
you
it's
get
not
rid
quite the end.
You do have to have an email address on file, so you have to kind of be in electronic
Yeah.
communication format.
Right.
And if you don't have that, then automatically you'll get a paper ballot.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
all right, so it does have some safeties in there for
Yeah.
people that may not be connected.
yeah, you won't automatically, so if I just don't have email, I don't communicate with that, I don't wanna have to select either, we're just automatically you'll get a paper if you don't have one.
Any other comments at this point?
And
Didn't get very far.
I have one, I have one, when I read through, I was reminded that anybody within a manor can nominate someone. However, only one vote per manor will be accepted. So does it have to be the one whose email is listed? I'm just trying to throw some stuff out
That's
so
a
there's
great
not
question.
problems later. Because Mike was not very, I mean, he's dead, so it doesn't matter.
His email's probably on record,
But his-
as is yours, right?
As is mine.
So,
So, but there are many couples who use the same email
That's true.
and only one email would be accepted. So all that would have to be written down. It did say something in there about something to do with that. I'm not, it's not coming to me.
well, that was one of my questions about the policy, that you can make a note of this if you could. In it, it references the membership, one vote per membership. It
Which is
also
the
uses the
manner.
term member, and it
Right.
also uses the term manner to
Okay.
emphasize that
Yeah, so
one
which
vote.
is it?
So that needs to be
You need
clarified
to
throughout.
clarify that language.
I would
Right.
use the word manner, because everybody then knows it's one vote per
One
manner.
vote per household.
Yeah, I would say that would be correct. Because you only have the one manor. You can have multiple people
Right.
listed on the membership, yes.
And then,
Yeah, so that's good.
Jory, also for your reference, on page 7B16, it says, there's a line, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down under ballot receipt and counting, that says designated occupants have voting rights. That line's out of place. It should be elsewhere.
Mm,
I'm not sure where.
mm.
Where is that?
It floated in from
It's just,
somewhere.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Maxine.
Well,
So did you see it, Maxine?
I do, but maybe it does belong there because
What page are you on?
16,
Well, I think somewhere we need an intro that says, here are the people that can vote.
okay, and to clarify
Designated
what that
occupants
means.
have a right,
Clarify it, yeah.
Yeah.
but is a designated occupant in a manner with a member, so they it's just, if they're living in that manner, how do we decide that it's who votes in that manner, if you have different categories of people in that manner?
Who has the right to vote, or doesn't it matter? And only one of them, whoever they are, only one vote would
Well, you
be
get one
counted.
vote
yeah.
per manor.
One vote would be
It doesn't
counted.
matter who
It
votes, but
doesn't.
where's the control that there's only one person voting from that manner?
Yeah, well, it said somewhere that they will somehow check addresses. I thought I read that.
I would like to know how they check.
Yeah, so that would be a
That's a question.
question for those guys. Yeah, it's a complicated thing when not everybody, when it's not just a majority, it's one vote per manor.
Mhm.
Well, that makes, that whole piece is starting to make sense, because otherwise we could end up with 20,000 votes for a community of 10,000 people,
Which wouldn't,
which would be quite confusing. Yeah, so it does make sense that there's only one vote per manor. How they decide
what if-
who votes is another issue.
What if the manor is rented? Does,
Unless they're a designated
there's-
occupant, it would go to the owner.
oh,
Who may or may not be confusing.
Ted has a question.
Ted has a question, Leanne? Leanne,
I'm sorry,
Ted has a question.
oh, I'm sorry.
On the manor, what if I own 3 manors? I own 3 manors, do I get 3 votes?
Good question.
Or and then what if I'm leasing out 2 of the manors, but they're not members, they're leasees, do they get votes because they live in the manor? Otherwise, we're down 2 votes of the district. So,
Lessees do not get a vote.
okay,
does the owner of the 3 manors get 3 votes, because it's per manor?
no, because you have one membership, don't you? Even if you own multiple
You
manors,
can only be a member once.
right?
So it's
Can
not the manor.
You can only be a member once.
That's right.
So if you own 3, there's only 1 member. So, but then
Wow.
that raises the question about the language. again.
So this is something I think should be like in an intro somewhere, defining who votes and how they vote. Or how, you know,
And then
conditions like
legal
that.
question altogether, because it's getting.
Well,
Yeah, that was good.
whether you vote electronically or have voting by ballot doesn't change,
It wouldn't change this,
the structure. So the, excuse me, the ballot's either sent via mail or email to whoever is designated at that unit. Excuse me. So only 1 vote per manor allowable is Article 2, Section 7.
okay. Well, these are good questions. This is good.
Whew, interesting. Yeah.
I thought this was gonna be an easy one.
No, but yeah. Well, we want everyone to have
Oh,
a fair
absolutely.
opportunity to vote, whether it's district or GRF, and so we just have to clarify all of that, so.
Jory, the other thing for consistency is sometimes it talks about the people handling the ballots are either auditors or independent agencies.
You know, what's your question about it?
I just wanted the consistency.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right, that's it for me. Do you have anything else?
I think what you're asking more about the voting, we've got to just go back to the bylaws. Because it's not in that policy per se, it's in the
Oh,
bylaws.
okay.
In relation to voting, membership and so forth.
All right, any other comments or questions? Jeff, do you have anything else?
Do not
Okay.
So what do we have to do with this? We're
Oh, I'm
just
sorry, okay,
putting it
so
to the next,
Jory's gonna make a few changes. And then
To be
I'm gonna
consistent.
send some just edits
And if CC Deborah too for this one.
and Deborah,
Yeah.
okay. And then we're gonna come back with our questions for Deborah
okay,
and to get clarification on how the e-voting works and where the controls are. I think that's, Does that seem
Yeah, that
sufficient?
seems, yeah.
All right. Are you okay with all that? Okay, I don't think there's anything else. So our next meeting is going to be February 10th at 1:30 here in the boardroom. And we will adjourn at 2 p.m.
Whoa,
Yeah.
indoor world's record.
So it says, the membership for each manor shall be entitled to one vote in each election, referendum, or initiative conducted by the foundation, even though it stands in more than one name. If more than one of the persons in whose name a membership stands attempts to exercise any right or privilege of such membership contrary to or inconsistent with the act of another such person, then the membership shall not be deemed to have exercised the right or privilege at all. So you gotta duke it out with your
So you gotta,
lawyers to.
So if, we can't talk about it now, because the meeting is is.
Didn't scratch that.
Yeah.
okay, unadjourned.
I don't know if that's possible, but.
Can we do
Okay,
that?
okay, we're still
All
live.
We're still live.
Alright,
So we are gonna discuss it.
And now I
Okay.
forgot my question. Yeah,
so what I'm hearing, I think, is, let's say there's two people who are
co-owners.
listed on they're co-owners. And they send in two different votes, which are inconsistent,
Cancel
then
each
they
other.
throw the whole thing out.
Right.
Is that?
And if there are two owners and they together own two manors, is this something that would never happen?
I don't think it
and
would.
therefore it doesn't.
It gets
make
really
sense
complicated.
to discuss it? I mean, maybe it's just such a non-issue
I
that it's
guess.
not worth discussing it. And it's just a curiosity.
How about if staff comes back to us with
With some examples,
Some
maybe?
yeah.
clarification.
Yeah.
We'll
Some clarifications.
clarify that.
I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure even with paper ballots, you've gotten two
It's the same
from
issue.
one manor, right? It's not a
It's
different
also
issue.
possible that people who are flippers and own several apartments at once don't really care who's running the place.
These
You
are all
know, so
questions that
yeah.
Deborah would be able to answer very
Yeah,
quickly.
so in reality,
We'll wait
it's
for
not,
Deborah.
I mean, I know there are a couple people who own manors for their children and. you
Yeah,
know, that-
yeah.
that
Well,
kind of
sure.
issue.
Or you have children that own for their parents, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's-
yeah,
Yeah, so.
yeah.
That's right. It's reversed here. It is interesting when you begin to like pick at the color.
I just want to make sure we get it right.
Well, yeah, get
Well,
it as
sure.
right as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the option of electronic voting really changes any of our
No,
policies
no,
per
no.
se. We just have to make
Yeah.
sure that we're
Right, right.
consistent, so,
Or better understand the Bible.
yeah, well,
Now we'll adjourn.
okay,
All right.
And I'm not asking
2:05.
any more questions.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure you knew I was back.
I don't know,
We
Jeff
do.
is still mulling it over there, so.
he's still looking.
We're good.
All right,
All right,
all right,
thank you, everybody.
good enough.
That was interesting.
Onward.